مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيبه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا وعلى محمد وعلى آل صل على سيدنا وعلى محمد وبارك وسلم عليه صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. Last week, we sort of started the topic of the road to Karbala, and I mentioned, the saying of Rasulullah sallallahu where he says, "Man kunta mawla, fahada Aliyun mawla." So for whomsoever I am his mawla, Ali is also his mawla, master leader, in that perspective. And we also talked about the martyrdom of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu, which occurred on the 18th of Zilhajj. The announcement also occurred on the 18th of Zilhajj. Today is the 24th of Zilhajj, and so on the 26th of this month is the attack on Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu. So, and then about 2 or 3 days later is when he passed on the 29th of Zilhajj. And as we mentioned last week, he according to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that door that kept all of this fitna out of this ummah. And so when that door was broken, that opened the floodgates to the fitnas to come. And we're still reeling from all of these fitnas. And we're seeing this all over the world. And this is one of the things, or one of the major issues, with everything that's going on, most people still have no comprehension of what's really going on. And so they end up siding with entities that are against not just Islam, but just basic human tenets, just basic morality. And when it's convenient, they change morality as well. And this is one of the things that throughout time, why there was such a push and such a force to try to keep everybody away from Ahlul Bayt, to the extent that even changing the definition of Ahlul Bayt. I was someplace this past Sunday, and I mentioned Ahlul Bayt, and somebody, even when I mentioned the names, they got upset. And immediately, these are the Imams of the Shia. And then he's trying to mention verses from the Quran, and the verses aren't even relevant to the topic. He wasn't, he had heard it from somewhere and just regurgitated it and mentioned the verses, and the verses aren't even the verses that deal with the topic. If you look at even the term Ahlul Bayt, the household, if you look at it from a very intuitive level, not from a religious standpoint, then, who is your household? Your parents, your wife, your children, these are your household. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he talks about Ali Dawood and Ali Fir'aun, the people of Fir'aun, the people of Dawood alayhi salam. So from that definition, then we are all Ahlul Bayt, because we're all from the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we follow him from that definition. But then, there gets to be a more specific definition, where you have Banu Hashim, those upon whom zakat is forbidden. They cannot take zakat, the lineage of Aqil, the lineage of Sayyidina Ali, the lineage of Ja'far, radiallahu anhum. The wives of Rasulullah are also his household. But when we use the term specifically, or even when we're talking in general and just talking Ahlul Bayt, we're talking specifically about those that he took under the cloak. So who was under the cloak with him? Of course, himself, and then Sayyidina Ali, Bibi Fatima, Sayyidina Imam Hussein, and Sayyidina Imam Hassan, alayhimus salam. And this is where the attack begins, because these are also demarcations for hypocrisy. So when you see people attacking them or downplaying their status or their position, then you know who it is. They're exposing themselves. So, if I look at the scholars of Ahlul Bayt, the Aima Ahlul Bayt, so you have, of course, Ali radiallahu, for whom Rasulullah said what? He said, Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha, that I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its door. There is no prophetic knowledge except through Ali. I mean, even when I look at the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, one of the greatest reciters of this ummah, he said he learned 70 surahs of the Quran directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But everyone falls silent when you talk about where did he learn the other 44? He learned the other 44 from Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, who is Tarjuman al-Quran, title given to him by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was still a young boy when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed. Where did he gain his knowledge? From Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh. And Abdullah ibn Abbas himself, he says if we hear from a reliable source, that Ali says this about something, then we don't need to ask any further. For Imam Muhammad Baqir, and the hadith is in Sahih Muslim, or at least that meeting portion of the hadith is in Sahih Muslim, that when Jabir radiallahu was sitting with Rasulullah in the masjid, and Imam Hussein al-Islam comes, and he lays his head on the blessed thigh of Rasulullah and lays there. And Rasulullah looks at him, and then he looks at Jabir, and he says, "Oh Jabir, this son of mine will have a son. And on the day of judgment, an angel will come forward and proclaim that, O Sayyid al-Abidin, O leader of the worshippers, come forward and enter Jannah. And that son will come forward and enter Jannah and take along with him a multitude of people." And he says that son will also have a son whose name will be upon mine. And O Jabir, you will meet him, and when you meet him, give him my salam. And the meeting takes place where? In the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jabir, he attained a very long life. He had lost his physical sight. He was still giving dars in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one day he hears footsteps coming, and he says to his students, he says that I hear the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he comes, he sits down. The one who's walking, he sits down. And Jabir, he says, "Who are you?" He asks him, "What's your name?" He says, "Muhammad." He says, "Muhammad what?" He says, "Muhammad bin Ali." Because Imam Zayn al-Abidin's name is Ali. So Jabir, he says, "Come close." He says, "I smell the fragrance of Rasulullah from you. And your great-grandfather sent you his salam." I mean, this is the status of these people. If you take them out if you remove them from any position, there is no scholar. For those who say, "Oh, these are the scholars," or "These are the imams of the Shia," well, then you have no scholars either. You have no imams. Imam Zayn al-Abidin's son, Imam Muhammad Baqir. Why is he known as Baqir? Baqir is the one who opened. He opened the gates of knowledge for the people. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah used to listen to his lectures when he was in Medina Munawwara. Imam Malik used to listen to his lectures. If you look at the 7 fuqaha of Medina Munawwara amongst the Tabi'i, all of them acknowledge Imam Zain al-Abidin as their master. The son of Imam Muhammad Baqir, Imam Jafar Sadiq. He is the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa, he is the teacher of Imam Malik. He is that teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa for whom Imam Abu Hanifa spent 2 years with him towards the end of his life. Imam Jafar Sadiq is poisoned 148 Hijri, Imam Abu Hanifa is poisoned 150 Hijri. From 146 to 148, Imam Abu Hanifa spends his time with Imam Jafar Sadiq, and he says, if I had not had those two, I would have never understood anything. So then if Imam Jafar Sadiq is not one of our Imams, then Imam Abu Hanifa has no position. And the students of Imam Abu Hanifa and their students have no position. The first teacher of Imam, or one of the teachers of Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh, Imam Muhammad Shaybani, he is the student of Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Shafi'i said about him that I've never met a man more knowledgeable than him. The first fiqh teacher of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal is Imam Abu Yusuf, who was a student of Imam Abu Hanifa. If I look at all of these scholars, then of course you have the son of Imam Jafar Sadiq, Imam Musa Qadim. His son Imam Ali Rida. When Mamun Rashid, when he becomes the king, and the reason the scholars supported Mamun was that he had promised that he would make Imam Ali Rida his heir apparent, so that if anything happened to him, then Imam Ali Rida would be the leader. That's the only reason the scholars supported Mamun. Because there was a battle between 3 princes. Harun had left Amin in charge. And then you have a battle between 2 others. So 3 were fighting. Eventually Mamun wins. When Mamun takes Imam Ali Rida to Khurasan, because most of his supporters were in Khurasan. Khurasan is the place of the Muhaddithin. If you look at the, Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam Tirmizi, Imam Nisa'i, they're all from Khurasan. So when Mamun becomes the king, he goes on this tour to go and meet the people that supported him, and he takes along with him Imam Ali Rida. Of course, he has other intentions. When they enter Khurasan, the first one to run out and grab the reins of the camel that Imam Ali Rida is on is Ishaq ibn Rahway. Who is Ishaq? Most people don't even know who he is. Ishaq ibn Rahway is the teacher of Imam Bukhari. He's not just any teacher of Imam Bukhari. He is that teacher of Imam Bukhari who convinced him to compile his Sahih. For him, it's an honor that he should go and take hold of the reins of the camel that Imam Ali Rida is riding. And he had thousands of muhaddithin gathered there to meet him. And when he comes, they had prepared a pulpit for him. This, of course, rubs Mamun the wrong way, because no one's paying attention to the king. So what do? They ask him, they place him on the pulpit, and they ask him to narrate a hadith for them that he heard from his father, who he heard from his father, and his father, and his father, until he hears from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, he's Ahlul Bayt, so he gives them something better than what they're asking. They're asking for hadith marfu or hadith qawli. So he starts off, he says that I, Ali, son of Musa, heard from my father, Musa, son of Jafar, who heard from his father, Jafar, son of Muhammad, who heard from his father, Muhammad, the son of Ali, who heard from his father, Ali, the son of Hussein, alayhi salam, who heard from his father, Hussein bin Ali, radiallahu anhu, who heard from his father, who heard from Ali ibn Abi Talib, his father, who heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they'd ask for hadith qawli, he gives them hadith qudsi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that La ilaha illallah is my fortress, and whoever enters my fortress is safe. He's entered safety. And when he narrates this, they all say Allah, they also start saying Takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And he says, then Imam Ali, he says, but there are conditions to this. And I am one of those conditions, meaning the love of Ahlul Bayt is a condition to saying La ilaha illallah. And Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, who is also one of the teachers of Imam Bukhari, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, and Imam Ibn Majah, who's compiled the books, one of the compilations of hadith, Ibn Majah. Both of them say that this isnad, the sanad, the names here have within them the power to cure the insane. And these are the scholars of the Sunnis. The son of Imam Ali Rida, Muhammad Taqi, Imam Muhammad Taqi, when he's 8 years old, because his father is martyred, poisoned. Kings don't like competition. When they find out who he is, when the kings find out who he is, they take him from Medina Munawwara to Baghdad. There is a debate, because the Grand Mufti of Banu Abbas, he said, this kid, he doesn't know anything. So he was challenged to a debate. They gathered all the big scholars. The Grand Mufti asked him, first question, he starts off. He says, what's the kafara for someone who violates the ihram by killing an animal? Imam Muhammad Taqi, he looks at him and he says, what type of question is this? No, don't even ask me a complete question. Because the chapter of kafara in fiqh is a very complicated chapter. So he says, you didn't tell me whether the person in ihram is going for umrah or for hajj. You didn't tell me if this is a free man or a slave. You didn't tell me if this is a man of knowledge or just a common person. You didn't tell me if the animal he killed was small or large, or whether it was a flying animal. He lays out 20 different conditions in which everything would change. And then he answers each one himself, because the Grand Mufti didn't know. There is no knowledge except through that door. This is why when, after Karbala, when Imam Zain al-Abidin is taken to Damascus, and when they enter the masjid, the imam in the grand masjid is giving this khutbah and nonsense. And he gets him to sit down. He himself climbs the pulpit and starts to give a khutbah. And in that khutbah, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has distinguished Ahlul Bayt with 6 characteristics. And the first of which he mentions is what? He says ilm, knowledge. The other 5 hilm, which is perseverance, sakhawa, and generosity. So ilm, hilm, generosity, shuja'a, bravery, and fasad, eloquence when they speak, and then love in the hearts of the people. That is the natural fitra to love them. So someone who doesn't have love for them, that means he's gone against the nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created within him. And when you violate that nature, there are going to be problems. So this is, again, and I'm mentioning all of this because it's all related to things that are happening today. There's a hadith which is in Musnad of Ibn Ahmad, as well as Ibn Abi Shayba mentions it, as well as Abu Ya'la. So the first two are teachers of Imam Bukhari, Ibn Abi Shayba and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. All three of them say that the hadith is sahih. Abu Sayyid Khudri radiallahu anhu, he narrates that we were sitting outside the house of Rasulullah one day, waiting on him to come out. You have this gathering of companions waiting on Rasulullah to come out. And when Rasulullah comes out of the house, one of the laces of his shoes broke. And he hands the shoe to Sayyidina Ali Karamallah Wajh to fix as they moved on. And they get a little distance away, and then they stopped, waiting on Ali to come. And then Rasulullah, he says to them while they're waiting, he says that as there is amongst you one who will fight, do qital, for the understanding of this Quran against this false and forced interpretation, as I have done qital or fought for the revelation of this Quran. And Abu Sayyid radiallahu, he says that amongst us was Abu Bakr and Umar, and we're looking around, who could it be? And we asked, Ya Rasulullah, and he says, the one who is fixing my shoe. And so they all go to Ali to congratulate him that Rasulullah has told us that, oh, you will be the one, he draws this analogy between himself and you, that as he fought for the revelation of this Quran, you will fight for the understanding, the correct understanding of this Quran. And so they all congratulated him, but Abu Sayyid, he says, it was as if Ali, this was not new to Ali. He already knew this. That people of the household already knew this, what would happen. Which brings us to many things that happen later. And of course, the fighting for the revelation is against all of those who are non-Muslim. But when you're fighting for the understanding, you're going to have those who are Muslims along with those who are hypocrites. You'll have both categories that you have to deal with. Those who are sincere in their Islam, but their understanding is a little off. And then those who are hypocrites. And Ali had to fight them all. The Battle of Jamal, the Battle of Siffin. These are people, Battle of Jamal, very different, because it was started at night by the hypocrites in each camp. There was no intention of fighting. But they had misunderstood certain points. As soon as they understood those points, all of them came and sided with Ali. Battle of Siffin, a little different. But still you have believers. Battle of Nahwan, now you have the Khawarij, those who have exited Islam. What was their saying? Inil hukmu illa lillah. That was their motto. That there is no authority, or there is no Or there is no decision except for Allah. Which is why Ali is kalamatul haq wa yuridul batil. That what they say is true, but what they infer or mean by it, that is a falsehood. See this today too. Many people say many true things, but their whole intention is, by using that truth, is to divert you in the wrong direction. People that lie to you 99% of the time, that lie is connected with some truth, because otherwise the lie can't stand by itself. It becomes very apparent what it is. So even those, when they attack Ahlul Bayt, oh no, see, the Quran says that the wives are Ahlul Bayt. Yes, the Quran says the wives are Ahlul Bayt, because the wives are Ahlul Bayt, but there are different categories of Ahlul Bayt. There are different categories within Ahlul Bayt. And one of the reasons the Quran emphasizes the wives as being Ahlul Bayt, because in Arab society, and especially Quraysh society before Islam, the wives weren't considered much of anything. To the extent many times the wives were considered property. And even again, as far as the wives being Ahlul Bayt, yeah, the wives are Ahlul Bayt. But the wives don't always have to be Ahlul Bayt. Because your wife today may not be your wife tomorrow. Your children are your Ahlul Bayt today and tomorrow. And the lineage of Rasulullah extends from his daughter, Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha, through Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is why even the companions commonly refer to the two of them as Ibn Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though the Quran says that about Rasulullah that he's not the father of any male amongst you, any adult male amongst you. This is why his lineage came from his daughter. But this is again why it's so important for these people to attack them. Because if they attack Rasulullah directly, then they expose themselves. So they attack the household. If you look at the first group that really deviated from Islam, it is the Khawarij. And these are the people that said, oh, Ali is kafir, because he accepted arbitration. And these are the people that blend in. This notion that there's only Sunni and Shia. This is a British invention. Because the Khawarij, they didn't end at the Battle of Nahwan. And Ali said they're not ending here. But they blend in so much easier because they didn't change their practices. At least not completely. They made some subtle changes that most people don't even pick up on. So most people think, they're Sunni. No, they're not. I'm saying these things because of everything that's going on. And inshallah, Sunday we'll have class, and I'm going to kind of go into more detail about the various groups and who's what and how they developed, and what the issues with them are, and who we can support and who we can't support. But a simple thing is you support whoever's on the side of truth. That's a simple thing. It doesn't matter who it is. If you have two groups disputing, irregardless of whether the groups are Muslim or you think they're Muslim or not Muslim, you still need to support the group that's on the truth. Period. So, time's up. Inshallah, like I said, Sunday we'll go over the same topic from a very different perspective. But understanding what we talked about today is important to the whole topic, because this is how they attack people and how they confuse people. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and keep us from this confusion and the fitna of Dajjal. And may He fill our hearts with His love and the true love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those whom they love. Those who have not made sunnah, go and make sunnah, inshallah.